Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, I'm back. Did you miss me? I'm sure many of you did. Thursdays are not the same, it seems. Well, we're back now for an extended period. Trip's over and we're looking forward to some humdinger shows before the end of the year. So, what have we today? Well, this is the Blueprint Show, episode 6. Enjoy the show. Right, this is the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams, and we have quite a packed show for you this evening. With that song, The Impossible Dream. But what is the impossible dream? Well, we will all have different answers to those questions, but how about we change it to the I'm possible dream? That we all learn to dream and think bigger, not just me. And the song says, and the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. And that has a personal message for me this lifetime. One man scorned and covered in scars is an apt description. But I chose to ignore the rejections, scorn, abuse, plus the internal and external scars to keep on fighting and reach the I'm possible dream or vision of the future that I carried for many decades. I know this world is a mess, battle-scarred and torn, yet someone or something has to provide hope and real solutions to get us all motivated and operating in a better way again. Just us against the long reach of his story. But with will, effort and belief, we can turn it into our story. And this is what the Blueprint is all about. Many will say it is an impossible dream. Yet what you all should have gathered by now is, if not us, then who? I will tell you what is the impossible dream, waiting for the governments or the masses to fix anything. One never fixed anything and doesn't have a plan. The other sits there and complains, yet tolerates the utter shit that they are offered. They will never fix anything. Too busy wallowing in their own misery and victimhood, all whilst proudly wearing their slavery suits. All whilst bowing to a system that is permanently broken. Yet how many realise it yet? And with my 12-day trip now completed, that was a mix between family and work, we are back to the shows again and know you all missed. And for many on the trip, the shows now will have a deeper meaning and purpose following that trip. And the reminder to all who went is to take that frequency and love generated within that trip with you and use it to spur you all onto greater heights. Right, some links I've been asked to provide. The main show link is THI-Show.com, and the links to the previous shows is THI-Show.com/archive. The link to the bookstore, THI-Show.com/bookstore. The links to the Blueprint website, the new Blueprint for Humanity.org. The links to the communal gatherings, thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org. And the links to our 501c3 charity, thepeoplesclub.org. Our TikTok address at THI_show_com. The Telegram address t.me/THI, all uppercase, _show. The Twitter link, #New Blueprint for Humanity. Now, being the end of the month, the people's, or I missed last month's, I should say, the People's Club Gardening and Non-GMO Food Communal Gathering monthly update for August 2023. And this month, the gardening group discussed the meaning of organic. The idea of organic started with an attempt to provide consumers with information about the farming practices in the production of their food. And this concept has been co-opted by greed-based organisations that have made themselves the experts, creating labels that force farmers to pay inflated fees and go through inspections, purchasing expensive products and being restricted in their farming practices, all to be certified organic. It's like a trademark, they say. And it results in the higher prices consumers pay. And at this point, it is another harvesting program. Most vegetables have been hybridized over many years through a natural process of cross-pollination in the garden and selecting seeds from varieties with preferred attributes. And this happens naturally with plants of the same type. Now, laboratory experimentation with food plants resulted in genetic modification, or GMO, which is unnatural manipulation of the DNA of plants to combine food plants with non-food plants for higher production, resulting in higher profits. And for example, some plants that are not edible contain natural antifreeze, which makes them able to withstand light frost. And when those plants are genetically combined with food plants, it results in a vegetable that can withstand frost. But testing to see if the food plants are toxic to humans is not thorough enough, and incidents of food allergies are dismissed as unrelated. Now, seeds from genetically modified plants can be grown under certified organic conditions. Are they labelled as organic? Another genetic modification is the manipulation of plants to ensure that they do not produce seeds. And when these plants cross-pollinate with non-GMO plants of the same family, they can result in seeds that will produce plants that never go to seed. And these are called terminator seeds. Now, considering the distance that bees travel, this is quite concerning as old vegetable strains become extinct. Are there certified organic seedless grapes is the next question. Chemical fertilizers are the base elements that plants require to grow. They are refined and produced in labs. And scientists have studied plants to find out which chemicals would cause the plants to produce the largest leaves or largest fruit. And they essentially force feed the plant on a diet that is unbalanced, resulting in an obese plant. It is larger, but it has less nutrition and more water in it, and it hasn't had the time to develop dense cells. Now, natural farming does not use refined chemicals, but products from nature such as compost to slowly feed the plants. And this is why homegrown produce tastes so much better and smells so much better. To counteract the problem of the droughts in California, farmers watered their fields with fracking water. This resulted in what one member described as those diesel-tasting carrots from California. Now, generally the best way to tell if food is good for you is to follow your nose. Good produce smells better. The next question is that why so many vegetables in the store are tightly wrapped in plastic. Now, the garden group agree that natural farming practices produce the best food, and we have also found that many things influence gardening outcomes, from the bacteria of the garden soil to the mood and intent of the person who is planting the seeds. The high vibration of the gardener and the attention given to the plants can help vegetables thrive under poor growing conditions. Now, the TBC Garden Group are not only discussing gardening. We have been influenced by the topics covered in the Thursday THI-Shows, and this can cause the conversation to go into other related subject areas. And we strive to keep meetings positive to raise each other's vibration, often with laughter, being supportive and learning together. We are not too serious or rigid about practices such as whether permaculture is better than Korean natural farming. We are not comparative or competitive, and we welcome anyone even if they don't know too much about gardening. We have also enjoyed drop-ins from members of other groups such as the school curriculum gathering, and we wish to express our heartfelt thanks to the web team and the members who are doing data entry for the garden guide. Now, if you want to attend the TPC Gardening and Non-GMO Food Communal Gathering, they continue to meet weekly on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Now, the Zoom link can be found in the Community Gatherings Forum on the Think Different website. The Blueprint Action Team Report, consolidated September the 10th and 24th. The International Blueprint Action Meeting. Members of the Blueprint Action Team met in Dublin last week to bond and connect in the flesh, and video conferencing being the main way for participants to connect across the globe. This 3-day gathering brought together people from a wide array of countries in Europe, as well as members from Britain and North America. And a fabulous time was had by all. There is no substitute for being with people who support you in candidly discussing anything on your mind. And it creates a kind of visibility and safety that encourages each person to shine. No one needs to be an expert on anything to participate. The process is organic and each person is encouraged to grow into any pursuit they can imagine. The book team. The French translation of the Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine booklet is now available to go on the Communal Gatherings website, and the consent booklet is being translated. The Polish translation of the blueprint is ready for the website. The German translation of the blueprint is nearing completion. The German translation of From His Story to Our Story Volume 1 is in the proofreading stage. The French version of the consent booklet is completed and will be soon on the Think Different website. The blueprint PDFs have been amalgamated with their covers. The English, French and Polish blueprint PDFs are on the new Blueprints for Humanity website now. Now, something to consider, they say. Membership may reflect the world. The same people doing, supporting, active, and those who are doing one thing in support are probably doing all. And usually 1 to 2% of the same people are doing the work. A small group of people can make a big difference by working together to manifest the world they want. And it creates a kind of mastermind group visualizing a better world and, more importantly, working to manifest it. The research team. The Blueprint research team has finalized the database design format, and now they are continuing to categorize each influencer into distribution sets of 25 by an ABC system of priority. And each set will be forwarded to the THI admin team for final approval and determination as to either sending them an actual copy of the book or emailing them the PDF. Now, under consideration now are 1. Professor Richard Wolff of Democracy at Work, 2. Vivek Ramaswamy, 3. Crow 777, 4. H. Pearl Davis, 5. The President of Ghana, 6. Thomas Melville, 7. Douglas McGregor, 8. Joe Rogan, 9. Jimmy Dore, 10. Drew Bridgen, 11. Kerry Cassidy, 12. King Abdullah II of Jordan, and 13. Kalin Georgescu of the Truth Justice and Sparta Justice groups. Now, he lives in Romania and may be the first to receive our Romanian translation of the book as soon as it is ready for release. 11 more are under scrutiny by the research team for first tier qualifications. And once the name approval process is complete, the versions can then be sent out. Next, the name list can be provided to the media team. They can then watch for and report any feedback on social media sites. Now, as mentioned previously, we've sent Blueprint books to Elon Musk, Candace Owens, Douglas Rushkoff, Benjamin Fulford, Tucker Carlson, Ron DeSantis, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Amazing Polly, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and also Lauren Boebert. Now, the media team watches social media to report any Blueprint feedback on social media sites. The email letter template has been fully approved now by the THI admin team, and the cover letter is being translated into French and Bulgarian for distributions to influencers in those countries, and it will be available soon for use by members. A highlight of the letter is the use of the shorter link addresses, courtesy of the web team. Also, a French member of the TPC Europe group suggested adding a line of clarification, and it has been added and states that translations are of the US blueprint as an example of what can be started by a small group of people. Each nation will develop its own blueprint. The research team is continuing to work with the web team and admin team to facilitate a smooth email outreach and feedback system for any influencer we contact utilising the website email procedure. And they will soon be working on the Canadian distribution. Now, to add to that, another 10 books will be sent out in the next week. Media team, let's see what they've been up to. Busy as usual. And the Instagram accounts are doing well and are garnering much attention, they say. The handles are as follows: Blueprint for Humanity 111 and THI-Show 111. Now, they say we follow the same format across all the platforms, as this creates an energetic flow, planting the same message daily. The Vedas show is doing well on the YouTube platform, reaching nearly 600 views in just a couple of days. Now, we decided to put out the whole show minus the music, as that is a copyright issue. Normal THI shows go out with just an intro on the YouTube, and the link to the THI-Show.com website is in the description box. This is because YouTube keeps flagging our shows for various reasons, citing COVID, even though they've removed 3 or 4, maybe even 5 of our shows. That was 2018 and 2019, which was before COVID. They're just clowns. And it is also the focus for using the platform. And after one of the shows a few months ago, a member put together a series of I deny consent memes, which we have put out several times now. And this week, just this past weekend, there was a campaign in the UK and the theme was I do not consent. And so this gave us another opportunity to put out our own. Is this also an example of planting the seed in the collective, which is then manifested? Indeed. The internal process. And while our message differs on many levels, we must hold on to the knowing that we are planting the seeds of change, and that is needed in the world. Our aim remains the same: stay consistent, spread the message, and work together by putting out the frequency that influences others. And we need to be the influencers of change, not the followers. The newcomers Zoom. So the purpose of this is for any newcomer members joining THI are invited to talk to our members on a newcomers Zoom. And if this is the first time you've reached out, don't worry about when you joined us here. The purpose is to help you orient the different groups, or just to get to know us better. And you can contact us on the main MeWe chat or reach out to Roger Isaacs. The youth website. Before we go into this, I've had reports from 3 or 4 members now of them showing their children or their friends' children the Blueprint book, and it's being very well received, I have to say. They're asking questions, and that's a big positive. Anyway, the You Think Different youth team is developing material for construction of a new youth website, and a draft outline of topics has been done, and youth team members have been asked to choose what pieces to speak to their hearts, knowledge and experiences that they would like to contribute. Now, due to the large volume of topics and content included for parents and teachers' guide, it is likely to be a series of guides. Now, the topics include Nurturing and Teaching the Whole Child Guidebook series, starting with Lesson 1, Learning from the Heart. Website design template to begin as soon as possible, with support from the web team to get the youth online space up and running. Build it and they will come, they say. Indeed. The media team has been creating and sharing Youth Think Different youth-focused memes to get the name and concept into the collective consciousness. And the goal is to have the children to guide the website space design, and we will invite the youth to join and begin creating their own content and future. Many of today's young people have lost their spirit and heart, and this is a direct reflection of the state of the parents that have yet to transform their wounds into wisdom. And this is an opportunity for parents and teachers to alchemize their shadows and shine their light into the world. Parents enslaved by the system are afraid to change and project their pain onto future generations. Be the change and be the guardians. Help the youth to think different just by being a healthy example. And this will give the youth what they need to be the best that they can be. The work we do on ourselves and in THI is not just for our one group or family, but for the all. This is for the collective, for all the children, as they are all our children, children of the earth and the seeds of the new humanity. Now, the solutions and resources spread across the globe while supporting our local communities. That is the human connection. And our intention is to empower youth to think different, act different, be the change, creators of their future and the future of humanity. Supporting the youth to live from the heart, valuing their feelings, ideas, interests, talents and skills, whilst assisting them to find their own voice and speak their truth. That raises not only their frequencies, but of the next generation and all of humanity. And we do this by knowing and being who we are, the way showers, becoming the change ourselves and creating a connected community where they feel they belong. But for too long, past generations have lived in the shadows, but no longer. And now is the time to be the light and shine your loving heart into the world. In the spirit of Be the Change, some team members will be making videos and taking photos for the website whilst camping with extended family in Australia. Seeing families living from the heart with child-guided discoveries is what fun in learning is all about. Fantastic stuff. The web team update, the French versions of the consent booklet and also the Sacred Divine Masculine and Sacred Divine Feminine booklet have now been posted on the Think Different website. The THI-Show.com bookstore has been updated to include links to the Blueprint website, the PDF and the paperback, and also to other publications such as the Consent booklet and the Divine Masculine and Feminine booklet. Also, the From His Story to Our Story series of books is also available at the THI bookstore. The overview of the report says, what is more satisfying than having a sense of belonging while working with people who recognise the value of your contributions? This is more of a sense of well-being than a daily diet of accolades. Pressures can be felt as we stretch our abilities, but what a feeling when we work as a team to manifest new beginnings. It's a pathway to learning, a lifestyle of learning, for a lifetime of learning for the all. Some fantastic work done by our teams there that we should all be proud of. And I will ask again for those not involved to come and join us and help your fellow members out. And some have raised concerns about the lack of feedback received so far to the blueprint. I did say it would be a while before the external validation came through, but the real validation is the internal version. It requires many seeds to be planted before the external really takes hold, and you can all play a role in that. And so come and be a part of it instead of sitting back and waiting for the results, as the more hands, the lighter the work. But we have had many internal validations of the blueprint that has been reported in these shows, including some members' children, as we just said. But many members have also come to me and said they have showed their friends, family and partners, and all have received it well. That is internal validation. The many mentions around the world of the word blueprint is also an internal validation. Several politicians suddenly mentioning the solutions contained within a book is also internal validation. And some of our members on the trip were showing the blueprint book and receiving great feedback, and that is also internal validation. Word is getting out, even though we've not had a mass production yet of the books or the PDFs, and work is underway to launch that now, and that requires more help from those of you that are not involved yet. We need some more data inputters. We need some to send out the emails, receive the feedback, and also compile reports for these shows. All of you are more than capable of doing that a few hours a week, which will be a great help to the few who are compiling these shows. In the last Blueprint show, the final piece was about coming together, and there was a whole purpose to that. As this next piece is all about how we all came together. We came, we saw, and we conquered. Now there comes a time in everyone's life where events, happenings, meetings or gatherings turns the course of history, both in terms of the self and on a wider scale. And recently we had such an event, a gathering of epic proportions that few who attended realised it would have such an impact. Now, apologies for the gaps in the shows, but I had another important trip to undertake that was threefold. 1, to see my mother again, 2, to do some minor work, and 3, bring people together. All 3 were successful, with the latter being the most prominent. The 3 days for the THI members gathering will live long in the memory of those who attended. It is safe to say that was a life-changing event for them all. It is also safe to say at the end of the 3 days, none who attended will ever be the same person before they arrived in Dublin either. A magical experience for all, even for one guest who doesn't participate with THI, Judith. She left a changed person as well. Now the full scope of what THI really stands for came forth in those 3 days. People coming together, being comfortable with each other, being comfortable with themselves, and being better people all round. It is unique in so many ways, sadly, as life has dealt us all damaging programs, but with THI's support, many have begun to overcome them. THI is as a support structure for those tired of the old world and negative ways and strive to be better versions of themselves. And yes, THI provides booming shows, endless viewpoints and knowledge, a deeper understanding of this world and even the blueprint. But the core of THI is a psychological test to push people into becoming a true version of themselves. To shed the insecure mask, the false images presented as themselves, and to learn to live, trust and love themselves on a much deeper level than imagined. And for too long now we have competed with each other and dragged each other into the gutter. An endless stream of negativity, low in compassion and empathy, and worse, a lack of real love by operating in a higher vibration. But this was all so much different on a massive scale. All members grew into themselves by the hour, and their confidence and shine was radiant by the end of the trip. Now, 2 years ago, I wrote a piece for the show, and it was received negatively by some THI female members, because they didn't fully listen to the piece and reverted to negative stereotypes of what they thought it was about. thankfully 2 years later, that piece is receiving the recognition it deserves, not by words, but by actions. And much of the groundwork of the European group was done in the May meetup that allowed them to be more comfortable with each other this time. And what we ended up with this time was, to put it bluntly, a full-on polyamory. People just loving each other, embracing each other, supporting each other. It was fantastic to see and be a part of. I mentioned earlier that it is unique because no one gets to experience what we did in a group setting elsewhere, particularly from such a diverse geographic and demographic point of view also. But how do we know it is unique? Because some people choose to label us as a cult, as they cannot comprehend people being nice to each other. And this all despite most members hardly knowing each other, and so they label it a cult. And that is fine by me, because I care not for their ignorant labels, only that people improve themselves. But isn't it a sad world when people caring and sharing, supporting and loving on each other is labelled as a cult? And perhaps the sterile, negative, compassionless and loveless people need to join the quote-unquote cult, as then they will feel so much better in themselves. But people who label it a cult are ignorant and basically just not nice people who live sad lives and wallow in victimhood that they have to denigrate others who are not like them. Just sad, miserable people wishing to destroy the happiness of others. Now, outside of me, 24 highly intelligent people turned up on this trip to meet me and have fun and enjoy each other's company. What is so cultish about that? Nothing, but miserable people suck the life out of everything and everyone. They are harvesters. And it's ironic really when over half the planet operate within a cult called religion and a load more operate under the Freemasonic cult, not to mention the millions operating within the Jewish cult as well. And so 25 people came from around 10 different countries and backgrounds and all had a ball together. English, Irish, Polish, Bulgarian, Romanian, Canadian, American, Germans, Dutch, Japanese, Swiss, plus some from Cyprus and Portugal. A highly unlikely grouping, all coming together as one. And yet it worked beautifully. Why? Because those people chose to become better versions of themselves. And this has been a common theme with meetups with me. And I get the fact that by and large people are coming to see and also assess me. Is he real? Is he human even? Does he come across well in person as on the radio show? All of which are valid questions to have and think. As too often now, people in the alt media have been burnt by programme members, charlatans, agency-based puppets and attention seekers, and people rightly wondered whether I was another one. And a great question I imagine was, is he too good to be true? Does he really care as much as he makes out? But because of shekel-making charlatans, the meme, too good to be true, is often rolled out. But that is also a programme to counteract genuine people. It runs along the same lines as, where are all the nice guys? As the answer was always right in front of you, but will you see? Will you accept? And will you trust yourself and your own judgment? And it's something many of you have struggled with. The solution? operate only in the heart. The mind just argues with you and you end up losing out. Mind and head games are the antithesis of being a free person. And some will say, but I don't want to break my heart. So the mind games are easier. That is yet another illusion. The heart repairs itself, the head can't. It will just continue to run the same denial programs on you until you learn to get out of your own way. And so the people came to see me, but do they engage each other in the same way? Well, the answer to that question on all meetups I've done is an emphatic yes. The members are also comfortable with each other, laughing and joking and hugging all the way. Why? Because they have all learned to be comfortable with themselves. This then allows them to be more open with others. But the best experience of the gatherings is people are free to talk about anything with each other. Something that is not too prevalent outside of THI. The eye rolls, the excuse to walk away, your talking shit comments, or the lazy narrative of you are in a cult. Yeah, right. Caring and sharing within a free enterprise, being polyamory without the sex aspect. Although a number of our THI members are seeking partners within the group now, and that was inevitable. Learning to improve the self, weaning off drugs, alcohol and pharma meds, supporting each other financially and lovingly, and getting people to think and act for themselves, learning to open their hearts and soul develop is all labelled a cult. Well, you can sign me up to that label every single time. But if only the rest of the world operated the same way, this world would be a better place, period. The members were that comfortable with each other, they shared a sauna and a swimming pool with each other, the highlight of which, I'm told, was Ovi in his Speedos. I chose to neither observe or absorb on that particular occasion. Now, prior to my trip in the UK, or to the UK, we had a long layover in New York, and so I invited a member who lives in the region to come and meet up with us. That was Ramona, and we spent a lovely hour chatting with her, and again the conversation was comfortable. Now, the Monday of the trip involved people flying in from all parts of the world and then assembling at a lovely beachfront hotel in Dublin. And that involved Susan having a railway line style track with her car to and from the airport. Mad Max did road again and again and again. Speaking to Susan yesterday, she's now considering setting up a THI startup business of taxi services to and from Tara and to and from Dublin Airport. I hope you all thanked her. Now, following us all getting together in the hotel, we managed to sneak into a conference room there for us all, and the members were presented with two presentations, one from Paula and one from me. Now, Paula presented life in Montsegur, France, and the scene of where the real Mary Magdalene was killed by the Catholic Church troops in the 1000 year, not the 0 to 100 year, their books will tell you. Pictures and explanations of the area were presented, and details of the caves there. Details of the frequencies and energies now ensconced there as well, and the full beauty of the Montsegur region. I then gave a presentation on some of the work done this year, but focused heavily on the importance of this trip, the bonding of all the members on it. All came away from that presentations with varying emotions that bubbled up to the surface in many of our members. A clarity of what we do, an understanding of what we do, what has played out and what is unfolding on a massive scale. And nobody was left with any illusions after that. We are a force to be reckoned with, and we can achieve the impossible dream if we all apply ourselves. That presentation even contained some tiny singing. When I asked all members, is there a part of any show that you felt was about you? And most answered yes. And then I started singing, "You're so vain, I guess you think this show is about you. You're so vain." Now Martin and his guitar provided some better singing from himself and other members later that night. And Martin has also compiled a CD of his songs and gave me a copy, and it's called Trust and Devotion. All of it recorded by our resident camerawoman Kayoko, who is even tinier than me, and she is such a treasure organising everything that went on. But with the presentations out of the way and a brief description of where we were all heading to the next day, we readied ourselves for a trip to Tara, which is Ireland's sacred hill. And so with 5 cars all in a row, all of which were black in colour, we streamed out of the hotel and onto Tara. Now Tara is known in the Irish language as Team Hair. Now Team Hair I thought was a reference to Rochelle's and Kevin's haircuts, to much laughter in my car anyway. Rochelle and Kevin are Team Hair, period. I'm going to die now. We arrived in Tara and witnessed some things that were pointers to what had unfolded in our last trip there in May. The ravens protecting the church, built right next to the hill. It was witnessed last time with loads of gins flying round, but not anymore. No gatekeeper or watcher in attendance this time, and we strode around the grounds and I was pointing out specific things along the way. The King burial chamber got special attention, and then the wind and the rain began to rise up. We then were shown the markings on the ground, which were significant, and we then approached the hill, replete with its phallic symbol stone. And then the fun began. The rain was lashing down and the wind was surreal. It was in the 40 to 50 mile plus range, and some were struggling to stay on their feet. But we then formed a circle and did some energy work together, and I read out a speech related to it, and still the wind howled. But everyone was on a high after that was done, and we played some music prevalent to the place and day, and all sang along. But once that was done, the wind mysteriously died down, and we went to the shop for some refreshments. Now, interestingly related to the severe wind was the speech I wrote 2 weeks prior to our trip had this line in it. Hear the voices echoing through the valley, sent down wind as echoes of the past, renewed and birthed into the now. And all were speaking of the awe of what just took place and how high vibing they all felt. What they were all experiencing was a collective polyamory on a scale they never imagined. It was observed at Tara that one member had much more inner shine than she was allowing herself to reveal. That was Ella, and I hope she goes on to fulfill it. And yet again, a day out with Tiny set up new baselines of frequencies, emotions and love in an extraordinary way, as all will attest. We played this song at the end of the Tara meeting. Perhaps this will trigger the emotions of those who attended that day. We spent the evening together on the Monday in a restaurant that could accommodate us all having a meal together and sharing the stories of the day. But that day wasn't complete, as two old friends returned from the carcass of the THI country groups and the Alan fiasco to meet and greet me and the members who could last the pace of that evening. Some didn't, as they couldn't hack the pace of the trip, it seems. In fact, one particular member, who I shall not name, Amy, slept 16 hours on one day of our trip, which left my 84-year-old mother aghast. And when she finally rose out of her pit, making excuses for her excess sleep, my mother, in classic Scouse style, said, "You're just a lazy bugger." But Dara and Catherine Comiskey turned up at the hotel, and we had raucous laughs and jokes with them as well. And again, like all others who have been on trips together, they seamlessly fitted in with the other members. And they are now wishing to rejoin the group in a meaningful way again, after being burnt out by the whole Alan and Kim fiasco, which is great to see. Now, the final day together was a lot of fun and a joy to behold, as the members bonded together like no other. We had planned a trip out to New Grange, but circumstances dictated we couldn't go there, and so I came up with the suggestion to go to Slane Castle and the scene of the Battle of the Boyne, which is an important place in Irish history. And so we entered the grounds at Slane Castle, and hundreds of gravesites could be seen on the hill overlooking the castle. And so what is the significance of this site to Ireland? Well, it is the modern destruction and takeover of Ireland after the latter-day destruction and takeover by the Tuatha De Danann, who were reptilian to my understanding. And that whole story of that battle has been rewritten by the victors and was and is not as portrayed. The British got made the scapegoat for that, and yet whilst there was English and Scots fighting on behalf of William, I suspect neither knew what they were really fighting for. They were fighting for fake royalty and various houses of the time, including the Stuarts, Bourbons and Habsburgs. Also in support of William was Pope Alexander VIII. And the great question the Irish need to ask is, why is the head of the Catholic Church supporting the alleged Protestant King William? Now, interestingly enough, given some Irish hatred of the English, the battle map of the two sides states the following: Williamites, Dutch Republic and Scotland; Jacobites, French. And so there's no mention of the English, except William went on to become the English king after the battle. But the Jacobites is who the Irish were supporting. Is that not another Jewish Bible-based grouping? William of Orange was Dutch. The House of Orange, ran by the French Jews, moved to Holland, which was part of the Dutch East Indies group who transported slaves on Jewish ships. And this is why everything in Holland is in the colour of orange. It is celebrating the largely Jewish houses of families, in more modern day terms, the Rothschilds. Now, the French have played a huge role in all of Europe's his story, and yet is barely mentioned outside of THI. But the French connection lives on in England to this day, as the 3 lions on the sporting shirts are celebrating the 3 houses of French. Now, we walked the grounds of the castle and was told it was closed and to leave, and yet the gate was open. Now, we politely declined and spent more time wandering around the grounds. And at one point we formed a circle and did some energy work on the whole region within the castle grounds, and perhaps they didn't like that too much as they called the police on us. Now, the police were asking our members when we moved into the town, did you go into the castle grounds? And Katrina answered him in German, and so they left. Now, an interesting thing was observed as we entered the grounds was a tree in the centre of the lawn, right in front of the castle, and that was called the meeting tree. Now, many birds were seen circling the tree like those at Tara. After our energy work in the grounds, all the birds around the tree disappeared. Now, the cavalcade came away from the castle, which had been slain, and we headed into the town. And 2 things came up in that town, one from observation and one from a pondering. Because in the centre of the town at a 4-way junction was 3 houses on the corners. All of them had a keystone over each window, which is symbolic. And given the Catholics' hatred of all things orange, which includes the Freemasons and their orange lodges, why is there 3 free Masonic houses in the middle of Slane? Now, the other, which was a pondering, is even more in your face than the Masonic buildings. And given the Irish hatred, as I said, of the orange colour, why has no one asked why orange is in their national flag? The colours are green, white and orange. And this got me thinking deeper, and I began to ask whether it was symbolising something entirely different. On either side of the flag you have the Irish green and the Dutch orange, who then fought each other. But in the middle, there is the white colour. Is it symbolising the destruction of the white race by getting both sides to fight each other? Now, for further evidence of this, let's look at the American and British flags. Both are red, white and blue. Again, the white is in the middle. And during the American Civil War in 1812, you had the British redcoats and the American bluecoats. And they fought each other as well. And guess who lost the most people? The whites again. Now, as a reminder from part 4 of From His Story to Our Story, it stated that Civil War was stated to be about trade routes and a treaty, which was unpopular, which led to rallying points by the pro-French Republicans led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison in wresting power from the pro-British Federalists led by George Washington and John Adams. Oh my, 2 of the great American names, Thomas Jefferson fighting for the French and George Washington for the British, 36 years after America's so-called independence. Well, that piece shatters that illusion, doesn't it? But it also said which country was it that came to feed and rescue America and Americans in that war, Russia. And so you can now see all our history in every country was utter rubbish from day one. And the great question is, are certain flags of the white countries symbolising their destruction? Why would the Irish have orange in their flag? Now, after that, we took another trip that was further down the Boyne River, which yielded more than was first imagined. A strange beam of light was witnessed in my camera and several other members' phones. It was not from the sun, and it remained a mystery. Until our Swiss brainiac Simon came up with a pondering and also a theory, which was then matched when he overlaid it onto a map. The beam of light was coming from Slane Castle. Was it related to the energy work we had done there just 2 hours previously? Now, we then entered the garden area and a place called the Octagonal Gardens, which was strangely surrounded by statues of Greek gods. I felt into the place and it didn't feel good. It was a dipped arena of sorts that had clearly been filled in to cover something up, just like all the Native American sacrifice sites we have visited. Now, in the centre was a stone, and I could also see the outline of the original wall under the grass. There were 4 entrances into the pit, all at cardinal points. The centre stone was the original altar, and this was ascertained as a gladiator-style pit where they brought animals in to fight the people and be sacrificed. We did an energy clearing of the site and then departed back to the hotel. Now, there was a joke-type scenario on the last night as a Romanian, Bulgarian, Dutch, Japanese and Swiss went into a bar and started dancing. The great THI dance-off, which I observed, not absorbed, as the butler took centre stage. Even the heapster got in on the act. Now, him and Amy tried some fancy dancing moves and he ended up part strangling her. And even our more shy members like Truce and Ellen bopped away. We even had 2 birthday celebrations in our group on the last night, which was highly emotional, as Ovi and Susan celebrated another solar year to their extensive catalogue of anniversaries, all lovingly celebrated by all the members. And it will probably be a birthday Ovi will never forget. 24 people all loving on him. Now, after I had delivered a final speech about the trip and the importance of it, DJ Paul played some THI playlist songs which resulted in a full-on group hug, which I was stuck in the centre of, struggling to breathe. And all started singing, all hugging, all swaying to the beat, and many crying with the joy of the emotions of it, not just Rochelle this time. And the Blueprint anthem tune, Follow Your Heart, got a full rendition of singing by all the members in particular. And I'm not sure what the hotel staff thought of it all, but we enjoyed ourselves. Although they did come and support the birthday celebrations with us and brought Ovi and Susan's cake in. Now, it was a special moment where all the members just came together and enjoyed and embraced each other's company to the full, and a magical experience was felt by the all. Now, having played compere for the proceedings, I then went outside to do some cigar smoking dancing and observing through the window. Although the dance and singing session continued outside into the morning with several THI songs. Now, one of the events of the trip was the ingenuity of our members. one lovingly labelled as Groot, Steve, and also Man Mountain Sean going through the town, the airport and the hotel and promoting the Blueprint book and getting good feedback as well. And perhaps that is something more members could do themselves. Now, another funny incident took place as one of our younger members is still in the UK, and she was taken on a Nordic walk with an 84-year-old and couldn't last the pace, I'm told. How embarrassing is that for the Montsegur representative? And in classic Ovi speak, Paula, are you saying you can't keep up with a pensioner? Indeed. Another funny on the trip was when the airport parking locked our car keys inside the petrol or gas cap. And subsequent calls got more and more testy, as first Amy is given a rendition of classic British customer service, and then Todd. The operator said, Amy, 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 when you learn to speak English, call me back, and just hung up. And so Todd rang and was told, you sound like Amy, now F off and put the scouser on the call. It's just classic British customer service. But another event that took place is Todd, Amy and I also got to hear the live version of Sirens and Zedgars that is played at the opening of the THI-Shows. A stirring rendition with large crowd noise standing outside Everton football ground, which was very emotional for me personally. Now, interestingly, some of our members who stayed the whole week in Ireland and went back to visit Tara again. And Dolores Cannon and her entourage turned up there with much fanfare, I heard, and was being prompted to look at the blueprint herself. And she proceeded to take pictures of the book and was then directed to the website. But it's funny that, as just after we left Tara in May, Alana Danan turned up with an entourage there as well. Are the alt media coming to check our work there? If they are, cool. If operating under wrong intentions, they will face consequences of actions. The actions undertaken there will not and cannot be interfered with. Now, the final song is our main blueprint theme, and a line in it keeps playing for me, and it's likely to be important for me and you all. This is the time in your life to be free. You've got to follow your heart. And the coming days, weeks and months of this year will determine that path for myself in particular and you all. I set out with two objectives that whittled down to one by the time we arrived in the UK, and it was to create a European village community in the same way I created the American village community. It doesn't have to be where we all live in close proximity like here. We can create a village within our hearts, no matter what the distance is. Roger, Kevin, Colleen and Rochelle will attest to that fact. The European community really bonded together this trip in the same way the American and Canadian members have. And with that accomplished, we combined the American and European village into one village, one community and one purpose with this trip. A bonding that must be maintained and indeed enhanced. The tears of joy will live long in the memory, the embracing of each other also, the frequencies and the high vibes as well. And a final reminder, and I hope this show encompasses it, is to bottle it and take it with you. These trips and the time spent together are something to behold, and I thank you all for attending. And many members are now asking, when is the next one and where? I have no idea of that as yet, but I'm sure I will come up with something likely in the next year. It has changed the landscape of what THI is all about. The polyamory and the support of members to elevate themselves into better people. Hold on to the memories of our time together and remember we are all important in this group. It is time for all to step up and embrace each other and the blueprint that has the potential to change everyone's lives for the better. And all you have to do is follow your heart. Till we meet again. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. I'll see you all on Saturday and the Common Sense. Bye for now.